Hello and welcome to this edition of ENN. Today's topic is workplace mobility. Our guest today is Emmanuel Latour, ESI's practice lead for our mobility solutions. Hello, Emmanuel.
Hi, Brian. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for taking time today. One of the challenges we see in today's new reality is working remotely. The norm is working in office, but when the need arises and the workforce parameter changes to getting the workforce remote, we're really struggling with that shift. One of the first actions is normally for a company to go ahead and buy a number of laptops so that they can take that laptop home with them. But that's not necessarily where it ends. So what would be next?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's obviously something that a lot of people don't think of, especially when you think of what's transpired in the last little bit. Of course, one of the biggest challenges, if you have to do it quickly, is obviously sourcing those devices. Typically they're going to be laptops, whether they be Windows machines or Mac, Apple devices, right? So the thing is, this is going to take time, obviously, for those to arrive. And then once they arrive, you have the logistics around, okay, how do I image these machines? Do these machines conform to my standard? Do I need to adapt the software that I put on there and test it and make sure that it works if it's a different model than, say, models that we've ordered in the past. Plus, then there's the day two operational thing of, well, how do you go on about managing those PCs, those laptops that people have, and making sure that they're up to date, that they're protected, they're secure, and that they're being used the way they're supposed to be used, and that they're functional.
And I imagine security is a big challenge working from home. So where do you start? How do you secure your users remotely?
So there's a lot of challenges around that in securing access to it, providing the software, and some people will take different approaches on how they address that. The traditional stance, of course, is to put a VPN on the image and allow people to remotely connect over an encrypted link over the internet back to their data centers to access their files, to access applications. But there's a lot of challenges around providing access, making sure that people have access to only the specific things that they need to do their jobs and not anything else, and that they aren't potentially introducing other things, viruses, or maybe even compromising their credentials.
And you mentioned a VPN. So doesn't a VPN address the remote user and all the security?
So basically, a VPN doesn't address all of the issues. It consumes a lot of bandwidth, and there's a lot of considerations to take, that you have to think about in terms of what impact is going to have on the devices that service this, as well as the bandwidth that you have incoming and outgoing. So there are other ways of addressing remote access that are that are a little bit more flexible, a little bit more secure, frankly. That we also tend to suggest people and give a lot more flexibility in terms of not just for corporate-owned devices, but also offers the option of people to securely use their own devices, their own home PCs or whatever, in order to access corporate resources and applications securely over the internet.
It sounds like there's a lot of involvement, a lot of different pieces. Typically, how long would it take to get employees up and running remotely?
That's the question we get all the time, right? And then, of course, everybody always hates to hear the term, well, it depends. But obviously, it all depends to some extent. Having said that, right, I mean, there's a lot of things to consider that are specific about your organization. And so we've come up and we've designed ways where we say, we give you the critical, the bare minimum that you need to get up and running. To use a term that you might be familiar with, it's sort of what's the minimum viable product essentially that you need that provides you the critical applications that will hit 90% of your users' needs so that you can get up and running and enable them as quickly as possible. And we can do that in as little as a week. It really depends on a few different decision points as to whether you have the infrastructure, and we have ways of helping you identify whether you have the ability to potentially leverage what you already have that you're not aware that you could on premises in your office. Or if you don't, then that might mean maybe enabling solutions in the cloud to help you basically quickly provision some infrastructure to support this remote workforce quickly. But at the end of the day, it's all about getting people enabled as quickly as possible. And so we can do it very, very quickly, and then help build you on a more robust solution that will then address more use cases, more applications, more, different types of users and devices.
Perfect. Well, Emmanuel, I really appreciate you taking the time today. for the chat. And thank you to our listeners for this edition of ENN with ESI.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.